Warning. You are entering a restricted area. Return to where you came from, or be destroyed.
You're heading your way towards the useless nerdy knowledge. Please do not go any further. If you will not comply, you will hear a nerd rambling.
Nerd alert!
Get those nerds! Nerd! 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 Exterminate!
Go ahead, make my day.
Bazinga!
I'll be back.
Greetings, fellow podcast listeners. Welcome to another wonderful episode of Useless Nerdy Knowledge. I'm your host, Ben, and it's been a little while. I do apologize for that. A whole lot of stuff going on in life. You know how it is. But I figured, since I made a past episode quite some time ago of the previous Ghostbusters movie, Ghostbusters Afterlife, I figured I'd, make another episode on the new one that just came out, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. I'll be completely honest, I totally spaced out like when this movie was going to come out, because I honestly thought it was going to come out like later in the summer, like in July or something like that. Maybe it's just because like I heard or read that a long time ago and I completely like forgot about it or something, but literally it came out of the corner for me out of nowhere, because like I was too focused on the new Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire, so it's like two different Empire movies coming out pretty much simultaneously next to each other, but it's like, whatever. So two different Empire movies, one here, one there. Oh well. But I was pretty much looking forward to both, honestly. So since like the new Ghostbusters movie was like already coming out, I was just like, oh geez, well we better start figuring out when to watch that. So I got to finally watch it in theaters, and I thought it was pretty okay. I guess I can understand why certain people on the online community that I've seen so far don't exactly like it. I'll probably try to get into a little bit of detail, but at the same time not giving any like too much spoilers, just showing like from what the trailer kind of showed. But again, I'll do the best I can. Obviously, this is like a continuation of Ghostbusters Afterlife, bringing back the cast members from the previous movie. We got Phoebe Spangler, who's Spangler's granddaughter. Who, if you didn't see the last movie, you need to watch it because it's pretty good. And then we got, of course, Finn Wolfhard as the brother again. And then, of course, the mom's there. Paul Rudd as the teacher is in there, which is cool. And then, of course, there's like a couple side characters in the movie that are not exactly important. They're just kind of there, I guess, to basically like expand the whole Ghostbusters team, I guess you could say, which is fine. And then, of course, we got like all the original cast members back, which is awesome. You got Annie Potts as Janine back again, which is absolutely great. Dan Aykroyd's back again, of course. And then, of course, good old Ernie Hudson's back again. And Bill Murray, I honestly expected him to be in there just a little bit more, but I'm assuming that, like, he's getting like so old that he's just like kind of trying to space himself out from Ghostbusters like he did before. But at the same time, it's like, look, it's for the fans, yada yada, but it's still good to see him back regardless. And of course, you might have seen from the trailers where William Atherton, who came back in this movie, you might remember him from the very first movie as like that guy who tried to basically stop the Ghostbusters team and basically like had them like basically like breached a hole in New York, basically having all the ghosts escape and like cause havoc. So he's basically back as like a mayor pretty much. He's not in there a whole lot. He's only in there like a couple times, but I think just to see him back in there, it still makes me want to punch him in the face. But anyway, so the whole team basically like kind of restarted ever since like after the events of Ghostbusters 2. They basically like started back up in New York, same firehouse and all that stuff. Trying to catch ghosts like whenever they get the chance and all that. This isn't really too much of a spoiler, I guess, but the actress Emily, I apologize for mispronouncing her name, Emily Aylin Lind, who you might remember from certain movies like the two Babysitter movies from Netflix or Dr. Sleep. She's kind of like that blonde gal who has kind of a baby face, I guess you could say. But you might remember her from other horror movies or other different stuff. I just feel like that in terms of horror, like small horror parts, she's in there. But basically, she's like a ghost trying to befriend Phoebe and all that stuff. You know, just trying to be a friend or try to see her family. I don't know. It's not too much of a huge spoiler, so but she's just kind of there as just like a ghost character or whatever. So it's interesting. Now, I guess one thing I can understand of like why people didn't particularly like it is because like there wasn't a whole lot of busting ghosts. I guess you could say it's not really too much of a spoiler there. I guess it's just one of those things where it's like I think they were trying to explore more on like origin stories and like of like how paranormal entities work, I guess you could say. There's not a whole lot I can say about it, really. They just expand, like, new ideas and new ghosts, pretty much, just to show this and that. And, of course, as you might have seen in the trailer, Slimer, good old Slimer, is back, so it's good to see him. Um, so, now, with this whole, like, Frozen Empire, like, what's the big deal of that? Well, it's like there kind of is, but at the same time there isn't exactly, if that makes sense. Like it shows this like weird ancient god, who's like this tall looking uh, ghost or demon like thing. I'm not exactly sure how to describe it exactly. I don't want to give again. I'm trying to do the best I can not to give away a whole lot, but it really is kind of difficult. Um, and then there's just like this one guy that kind of sells it. He's got like kind of the whole main plot point. You might recognize the actor when you see him. I apologize because I don't feel like pronouncing the name, but anyway, you might recognize him when you see him. Now, what did I think of the movie exactly? I thought it was pretty okay. Now, was it like obviously better than Ghostbusters, like the original Ghostbusters or Afterlife? Absolutely not. Now, was it like similar to Ghostbusters 2? Um, it's kind of hard to judge on something like that, but I want to say it was slightly similar, but like not as nostalgic as Ghostbusters 2, if that makes sense. Like Ghostbusters 2 is obviously like a continuation a few years after the first one, but this one I think was just one of those things where it's like, you know, it made sense for it to exist because like there was the post-credits scene from Afterlife showing that they want to continue it or try it again and all this stuff. Um, Now, I thought it was okay. I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. It was pretty interesting. It was a bit spooky in some places, and it had some good humor in there. And those little Stay Puft Marshmallow guys, kind of like the Minions or whatever the heck, are back in there too. So it was absolutely hilarious to see them back in there. So yeah, I had some good laughs in that movie. It was really good. Um, Now, I'm not exactly sure what else I would need to say about it, other than it's just one of those things of like, you know, go and watch it yourself. See, I'm the kind of guy. It's like if there's a movie I really don't want to see or ever look forward to, like, you know, mostly it's like with like Marvel or Disney or any other type of like dumb content that's like coming out where it's like, look, it's another this movie or that movie, you know, another superhero movie. We're not really that interested in it. If it's just a movie I really don't care for, I guess I'll just like see what other people are talking about, or and I try to avoid Rotten Tomatoes as much as I can, really. But if they really give it a bad score, I'll see if they give it. And same thing with like this and the upcoming Godzilla Kong movie. I want to like try and avoid not only spoilers, but also like what the critics thought of like what they thought of the movie entirely and like what the rating they gave. So if you don't want any spoilers of like what the rating is, just like skip a little bit towards this episode. But basically, they gave it like a 43, 44% or something like that. Now, I feel like that's a bit harsh, really. Now, I guess I can understand why they would give it something like that, but I don't really care. If I'm being completely honest, with having like critics being the type of thing where it's like, look what they gave it, it just makes you think that, oh, maybe I should have a different opinion on movies. It's like, no, look, don't care about what they think or what this person thinks. You watch it for yourself, and then you get to think what you actually think of the movie. Like, there's like lots of movies I like, and like some really obscure movies that people were like really hate, like Drop Dead Fred. Not a lot of people like Drop Dead Fred. Actually, a ton of people hate Drop Dead Fred. If you don't know what that is, you need to watch it because I think it was absolutely hilarious. And here's the thing: the reason why I like that movie was because it had an actor in there named Rick Mayall, who was in a British comedy TV show called The Young Ones. And it was one of the funniest things I ever saw as a kid, because, like, my dad exposed me to that show. It was absolutely hilarious, just because it was just so bizarre and had that really weird British humor in there. And the reason why I like it was because, like, he was in there. You know what you were going to expect, but at the same time, it's just one of those original ideas of having an imaginary friend control your life as an adult and all that stuff, or all of that. Basically, it was a lot of fun to watch. So my same verdict kind of goes for this, where it's like, don't care about like what anybody else thinks, or even what critics think is best, because like they hated like the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, and I understand why they would hate that, because the Five Nights at Freddy's movie is not for critics. This was for fans who grew up on the game series and who like loved all the lore and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, it wasn't like a masterpiece or anything like that, but I still enjoyed it just because of the practical effects that they gave of the costumes, and of how they had some hidden Easter eggs in there, and of how it was just for the fans. So the same thing would have to go for this. This is basically a fan-based movie that I think fans of Ghostbusters would like, and I enjoyed it. I saw it with like a group of people who were like dressed up in Ghostbuster costumes, taking a picture for like their comic convention and all that stuff. It was like really cool, and I think it was like very enjoyable. Regardless, I don't care what people thought of it or what they think of it. Like, yeah, I can understand like maybe there's a couple boring bits in here, here and there, but I thought it was just interesting because they were exploring the whole origin of certain paranormal events, and like showing different ghosts of like how certain traps or new um, new ways and new technology to try and capture ghosts more properly, or whatever. I thought it was actually kind of interesting because like now there's like a whole other thing that they can try to expand on, rather than just capturing and trapping the ghosts. There's like so much more they can do with it. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I like the movie, and I hope that they'll be able to expand on it. I think another reason why maybe not a whole lot of people this and where it kind of suffers similar fate to Ghostbusters 2 is that maybe it was just a bit too original. Now, I still like Afterlife, don't get me wrong. Absolutely loved Afterlife. It was just great. However, I do think that it was just obviously slightly similar to the first one, obviously because, they used the same villain, used some similar things in there. And I think they just were like slightly similar to the original script of the first movie, and with this one, how it like tried to set itself differently with like, new characters, new ghosts and all that stuff, and a new villain. I feel like it's kind of like how Ghostbusters 2 is sort of like that in that way, where it's like it tried to do something different, and maybe not a whole lot of people caught on to it or thought it was interesting. I actually slightly like Ghostbusters 2. Now, again, it's no masterpiece from the original, but I thought Ghostbusters 2 had some original ideas. I like that, the pink slime, how it like emotions can change it, and with like the giant Statue of Liberty, walking around New York. I thought that was pretty interesting, pretty cool. Now, again, the Ghostbusters 2 is nothing like perfect, but I still think it's just enjoyable just for the fact that there's another Ghostbusters out there. And if I'm being completely honest, I think that we deserve more Ghostbusters movies with the original cast, since Bill Murray did not want there to be a third Ghostbusters movie for like a long time. So, in a way, he kind of owes us. Let's be real here. Now, regardless of that, I think that Ghostbusters Frozen Empire was just alright. I thought it was just enjoyable. I think it's just an enjoyable popcorn film. You just go with your friends and family and just enjoy it. Go out and enjoy it. I don't care what you think. Just grab some popcorn, a couple snacks, whatever, and just enjoy it. I don't care. Do what you want. There's not a whole lot I can say about it. Again, I tried to do this as spoiler-free as I could. The cast was good. The cast was great. They did their best. They did absolutely wonderful. I enjoyed it. I laughed. I was a bit spooked out in a couple places. It was pretty good. And I think that Ivan Reitman, the original writer for Ghostbusters, would have been proud of how people are still out there, still watching their movies, and how his ideas have just, expanded into the other world of ghosts, I guess you could say. One other thing I did want to point out, too, is that I have never seen the animated series of the real Ghostbusters, or even that new one called The New Ghostbusters, I think it's called. I really want to get it on DVD, but it's like really expensive to get too. But hopefully someday I'll get it, because it's cool because it has Lorenzo Music playing Peter Venkman, and Lorenzo Music played Garfield in the animated series, and then Bill Murray was the voice of Garfield as he was the live action Peter Venkman. Kind of an interesting connection. Anyway, but I still think that Ghostbusters still has a good chance to be a good series. I think they should expand more on like different tools and techniques for traps and weapons, or how to like explore the ghost realm. And I think they should come up with more clever ideas on like different types of ghosts or like villains, basically. So hopefully it goes well. I hope, and obviously, it won't last for a long time, but hopefully the original cast will still be able to return for however many times they can, if they can. But I still think it's good to see them regardless. And even like with the newer cast, I think it's still pretty good that they're in there. I think they're pretty likable characters. And there's not a whole lot I can say about it other than just go watch it and see what you think for yourself. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. If you have any other suggestions for any more episodes, let me know. Obviously, next week I will be able to put out a full review of the Godzilla and Kong: The New Empire. Hopefully, I'm trying to think if I either want to do it by myself or with a couple other people. I guess we'll find out. But anyway, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.